So welcome to the January issue of from IMAR, DGSF, and FYI Fly on new topics that we thought would be great for after the new year. We had record spending for Black Friday and Thanksgiving, and a lot of that went on credit cards. So now people are like, how do I start dealing with my credit card? It's also the season of resolutions. So I'm going to start making my January resolution. And as you can tell from my size and everything, I've made a resolution to lose weight every year, and it goes away in 10 minutes. So how do we stop that from happening? What are some of the different things we can do with that? We'll talk about that. We have a panel that we're just going to have an open discussion like we did back in December that you guys can follow along. So we have a newcomer today, Aubrey Bain from DGSF. She helps us write curriculum on credit. We have Derek Wesley from IMAR and LLC, and they run the Seedling program for the teens. And then, of course, our CPA expert, Debbie Todd, to help join the conversation. So I'll start with the first question is, let's get to that big one first. What do we do with these credit cards that are now maxed out and I have no plan, and I got all the kids are really happy with big smiles. I didn't build my budget in December, didn't listen to some of the things we said. Now what do I do?
Well, the first thing I will say is don't throw your credit card statements in the garbage. Don't ignore them. That won't help. As we all know, we have good intentions and we say we're going to keep a budget for our spending, and we really do hope you listened to some of the topics we talked about in December, because we gave you some good ideas on that. But the reality is it's now January, Christmas is over, and the credit card bills are here. So if you, like many other people who participated in the gangbuster Black Friday and Christmas shopping, and it went on your credit card, there's some simple things you can do to start. And then Aubrey, please, if you want to tag in here with me at some juncture, that'd be great. But one of the things you want to do is you want to sit down and grab your budget. You want to grab your piece of paper. You want to look at what your credit card bills are. Look at your interest rates. And then you sit down and you say, how can I start to pay these off as quickly as possible, while still making sure your other bills get paid? And in an inflationary environment, I know that can be sometimes more challenging, but that's really the easiest way to do it. If you really find that you've got some other issues and you really can't pay it, because sometimes in the winter, people get laid off, they have less hours. So it's kind of a complicated thing. You have a bigger bill, it's colder, your utilities might be higher, but you also have your credit card bills. If for some reason you cannot pay them, contact the credit card company and try to make some arrangements.
Yes.
They aren't out there trying to make it hard on you, but if you ignore them, the bills are just going to continue to rack up. So the first thing would be, as I said, you want to go ahead and sit down, figure out which credit card balances you have, what are the highest interest rates, because you want to focus on them as much as possible to minimize the interest. And then the second thing you want to do is, if you run into a problem and you cannot make at least the minimum payments, then you need to contact the credit card company and try to see if you can make some arrangements to buy some time. Maybe they will even reduce some of the interest rates. You don't know. How do you say, if you don't ask, it won't happen. So that's my first two big tips on it.
Yeah, and a couple other things that potentially could be an option. Some of the credit unions have programs specifically designed to help you get out of credit card debt. Of course, there's always the traditional snowball method, which that might be originating with Dave Ramsey. I don't know, but he talks about starting with the smallest balance first, right, and paying that, and then you've not just eliminated that credit card, but you've eliminated that payment. So that eliminates that output for that card, and then whatever payment you were making on that one can go towards the other cards. And that kind of helps keep the motivation going for those of us that are like to see progress, even though it might not be the highest interest card. If you're less of an analytical person and more of someone who's maybe just needing to see progress and is maybe anxious, starting with the smaller one potentially could be an option. And again, contacting your credit union and seeing if they have, like, the credit union I worked for had a credit card buster program where they would reduce it. At the time, it was like a 9 or 10%, which is going to probably be lower than your credit card, with a fixed payment. And then you paid that one off, and they only did one at a time. They didn't take on all your credit card debt. They do a little one at a time, and to kind of help you get out of debt. And then having the fixed payment for a term loan, it also keeps you accountable to ensure that you do actually pay it. You also might assess if you are someone that truly doesn't have the money, or if you're just someone that maybe, I mean this nicely, doesn't have the self-control to put the money in the proper place. And so moving the credit card bill to a fixed loan, maybe closing out that trade line if you feel like your personality needs that, kind of that to be cut off as an access for you, potentially would be an option too, to kind of keep yourself accountable, and moving it to a term loan like a credit card buster, which would be, again, maybe 3-4 years, depending on how big the card is, at a much lower interest rate, would demand that card gets paid off. Also, if you own a vehicle outright that is very valuable, like if you own your truck and you owe it outright, or you have a lot of equity in your truck, that's also an option too sometimes. And I know no one likes to have a loan on their truck, but we also don't like to have 30% interest rate credit cards either. So not all of these options are right for everyone, but there sometimes are options, or your home as well, although rates are much higher now. So if you bought your home 3 years ago, that might not be a smart move to make, because interest rates are so much higher. But a car loan, like a title loan against the title on your car, or a special credit card payoff program through your credit union, or maybe even your bank. Maybe some of the banks offer them as well. I would call your credit union and ask, see if they have any good options. So this is just my thoughts.
So, Aubrey, I'm glad that you mentioned the car loan situation, because I actually just had that exact situation. I had an older vehicle that was paid out, and I promised that I was going to take care of this vehicle for as long as I possibly could, and I was going to drive it till the wheels fell off. Well, the wheels fell off.
Oh my gosh.
And I was forced to purchase another vehicle. So my wife and we were talking about it. So I think I mentioned this during our last episode, that whenever I'm shopping for something, I'm going to look at every website I can. I'm going to go to every dealership I can, and whatever I have to do to make sure I find the best price for whatever it is I'm trying to purchase. So I found a vehicle that I like. And so something that my wife and I were talking about was, let's try to pay this down as quickly as possible, so we own it outright, and then that's not a new bill that we're having to deal with. And so we were thinking about the different options. And so I thought about how important it is to have multiple revenue streams, different money coming in however you can. Something that everyone's focused on is the gig economy. If you have to take up some extra hours so that you can start knocking that stuff down as quickly as possible, like Debbie said, so that interest isn't killing you every month, because it's going to get worse and worse. It's not going to get better. So don't put it off. Try to put as much toward it as you can. And so kind of talking for us, thinking about New Year's resolutions and different things like that, maybe that's something you guys can focus on, trying to find ways to come up with multiple revenue streams so that you can knock down those credit cards. And then once that's wiped out, then you have money that you can save and invest for your future, for your children's future. So things like that. So keep all of those things in mind.
Reiterating what maybe you said, or let you guys clarify you said. So do I go credit card shopping? I'll ask you that question. So in other words, right, there's the 0% interest for 4 months if you transfer the balance. Is that where I start?
No.
No.
Do not do that. Those almost always come with a balance transfer fee. And so basically they take all the interest that they would have charged you over that 4-month time period, and they charge it to you as a fee upfront when you move the balance over to the new card. And then they resume charging you interest after the 4 months, and you've paid the same or more, depending on, the situation, as you would have having just left it alone and paid it off the old-fashioned way or come up with a truly low interest route way of doing that. Again, credit union moving it to a fixed term loan in some way, or just paying it off. Like Derek said, pick up a gig or look around your house. And, you know, a lot of people have some really nice stuff that's just laying around that they're not using. The Facebook Marketplace is my favorite thing. And I like to buy things off there and I sell things off there. And I've gone through time periods where I've made pretty good money, like a couple $100s a month. Like we were moving and I was kind of like, oh, I don't need this, don't need this. I can sell $3 or $4 at a time. And that adds up pretty quick. I put it on the porch, the person leaves it under the mat. And even if they stole it, I've only lost $4. It's not like, you know, but it's not any effort is what I'm trying to say. So anyway, don't do that. Don't go credit card shopping. That's a bad idea. That's just my 2 cents.
And I'll jump in on that if it's okay, Larry. And that's a great question, because I'll tell you what, a lot of people think that's the way to do it, right? I get myself in a switch, I run up my credit card, and all of a sudden I'm faced with this bill. So I'll just go ahead and get this low introductory rate or just 0% rate, like Aubrey talked about, right? To transfer it for 6 months or whatever. And yes, they'll give you a transfer fee. The other thing to think about from a longer term perspective is I call that credit card hopping, not credit card shopping. And what happens is, if you think about it, if you get in the habit of thinking you can do that, it really doesn't help your credit rating, because all of a sudden you could get seen as a risk, because you might have these cards on there, but you're short term, so you don't have a credit history. And the length of your payment history and the length of your credit history are really 2 vital pieces to your overall credit score. So doing that and jumping from one credit card to another might be a short-term solution, but it might come back and be a problem later, especially if you're younger and you say, hey, I'm trying to think about getting a house later, and things like that will impact your credit score, and it'll be on there for quite a while. So please don't trade what looks like a short-term fix for a long-term challenge down the road.
I'm glad our 2 credit and finance experts answered those questions. I'll go back to what Derek jumped on, though, is finding part-time work or finding different solutions to bring in income. Through my career, you know, there was a time that I haven't had to do that, but like right now, I'm finding part-time stuff to go do. You know, I go down and I work on a guy's system down in Vancouver for a few hours a week. It's not great pay, but it brings in a little extra money to help cover off some of those bills I had. But one thing that my wife and I have done pretty diligently is that after Christmas, January is the go-through month, because we weren't always great with credit cards in December and stuff when we got Christmas gifts. But it's amazing how many toys your kids have that they never play with that you can put on the Facebook Marketplace. And for those of us that are, I'm going to say the male population, but it could attract the females as well, is like my shop. How many screwdrivers have I bought because I couldn't find one, so I ran to Home Depot and bought one? And how many other tools did I buy that I thought I would use that all the time, and come to find out I used it once and it is almost brand new sitting in a box because I'm doing other stuff now and I don't need that tool. Those are all things that could bring in some money to help pay down some of those credit card bills. So it's not just finding another job, but you know, there's jobs out there at Home Depot that they just need aisle assistants, restaurant jobs that I could never do that. But there's a lot of people that are just looking for low-end labor right now to help get some things cleared through their shops that you don't have to have a technical skill. Do you have to maybe swallow your pride a little bit and do that? But yeah, if you do that a few nights a week, that can really help get those credit card bills knocked down. So Derek kind of brought that up, but think outside the box on the income streams. You can sell stuff. You can help your neighbor. You know, I just built part of my neighbor's roof for him because he was working all the time, couldn't do it. So I know that skill. I'm not a quote roofer, but I got a few $100 for helping him get his shingles up on his roof and stuff like that. So there's lots of opportunities. You just got to think out of the box a little.